I'm doing this video before tomorrow. I'm doing it tonight so I can take a night off. It is about inferiority complex, and is constantly comparing yourself to others. Another is believing that nothing you do is ever good enough. And it isn't a mental illness, but I can totally relate because I feel this way all the time. So chances are you've experienced feelings of self-doubt and uncertainty at some point, but if a negative self-image persistently affects your daily life, you might have what's called inferiority complex. It means it's not inferiority. I can't say it, I'm sorry. Anyway, the condition, which was first described by the psychologist Alfred Adler in 1907, is defined by the American Psychological Association as a basic feeling of inadequacy and insecurity that can lead to behaviors ranging from withdrawal, rooted in fear and shyness, to excessive competition and aggression as a way to overcompensate. The complex refers to a deep-seated belief of being fundamentally inadequate or inferior to others. A psychologist in private practice in New York City said, individuals may constantly compare themselves to others and feel incapable of achieving success or happiness. Those feelings of not measuring up to others that categorize an inferiority, why can't I say that word? Complex can be real or imagined. Left unchallenged, they can develop into deeper feelings of inadequacy and cause various other symptoms. Many mental health professionals don't use the term inferiority complex and instead call the condition chronic low self-esteem. And that's why I'm making this, because it mentions about mental health professionals and how they deal with this. I got lost. Although it's not a diagnosable condition according to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, this mindset is still recognized as a source of significant distress. Symptoms of an inferiority complex go beyond occasional bouts of low self-esteem, or worries about your abilities. They are persistent. If you think you or someone close to you might be struggling with an inferiority, why can't I say it? Complex, here are 8 signs to look for. Number 1 is feeling insecure, incomplete, or unworthy. Although it's normal to feel insecure or less accomplished than others at times, there are inferior complex feel these things constantly. It can be quite paralyzing to a person because no matter what you do, it never feels enough. If you feel insecure and unworthy most of the time, no matter who you're with or what you're doing, it could be a sign of inferiority complex. Number 2, loneliness and withdrawal from social situations. A study published in the Journal of Abnormal Child Psychology analyzed various types of data from a group of teenagers to learn more about the relationship between self-esteem and loneliness. The researchers found that the connection between the two goes both ways. Those with lower self-esteem are more likely to feel lonely because of it, and persistent feelings of loneliness can have a negative effect on self-esteem. Interestingly, a person's perceived level of social acceptance, how much they think other people like them had a bigger impact on self-esteem than their actual level of social acceptance, how much other people actually like them. People with low self-esteem are likely to avoid social situations altogether to prevent exposing themselves to potential judgment or criticism. They may feel uncomfortable around others and believe that they won't measure up to their peers, leading them to isolate themselves. Number 3, comparing yourselves with others. It's almost impossible not to do in the age of social media when friends and strangers alike are regularly sharing details of their lives. But that doesn't mean it's good for you. Someone with low self-esteem will likely compare themselves negatively to others, often focusing on perceived strengths and successes of those around them. Constantly comparing yourself to others and concluding that you'll never measure up could be a sign of an inferiority complex. I'm trying. I don't know why. I can say it once in a while. Anyway, so might finding fault in others to try to feel better about yourself. Now, number 4, this is me. Use of extremely self-depreciating humor. We all make fun of ourselves sometimes, but someone with an inferiority complex may engage in self-depreciating humor or make negative comments about themselves as a way to deflect potential criticism or to preemptively acknowledge their perceived shortcomings. It's possible to draw a distinct line between what's funny and humanizing and what's an attempt to cover up low self-esteem. But generally speaking, too much self-defeating humor isn't a good thing. And I say I have not really low self-esteem, but insecure. A study published in Frontiers in Psychologically in 2020 looked at 4 distinct types of humor and how they affected people's overall well-being. The results showed that people who engaged mostly in the kind of humor that shines a positive light on themselves and those around them had higher levels of subjective well-being. On the flip side, those who engaged mostly in self-depreciating or aggressive humor had lower levels of subjective well-being. If your go-to way to make others laugh is to put yourself down, it could be a mask for low self-esteem. And number 5 is a big one for me as well. Difficulty accepting compliments. Accepting compliments or positive feedback may be difficult for people with low self-esteem. They might dismiss these comments as insincere or attribute them to external factors rather than recognizing their own worth. This can look different from person to person. Sometimes people are just very self-effacing and humble and will outright reject compliments, and I do that. Other people don't do all that. They accept the compliment but privately feel like imposters, thinking if they really knew me they wouldn't say that. The next time someone compliments you, notice what goes on inside your head. If you have an inferiority complex, you might immediately question or reject whatever the person had just said. And I do that. I'm like, no. Oh, number 6 too, insomnia. Although it's not clear why, an inferiority complex might give you sleep problems. In a study of university students published in the journal BJ Psych Open in May 2022, researchers found that low self-esteem was associated with higher levels of insomnia. Insomnia is complex and often has many contributing factors, but if you struggle with sleep, it could be worth exploring and strengthening your self-esteem. Number 7, superiority complex. That one I could say. Even though they're considered opposite disorders, inferiority complex and superiority complex often overlap and coexist. Superiority complex, according to the APA, which is when someone has an exaggerated opinion of their own abilities and accomplishments. They may boast about themselves and overstate their achievements, though that may seem incompatible with an inferiority complex. I said earlier. A superiority complex is a way for someone to escape from and overcompensate for feelings of inadequacy. My problem is that I try to read too fast. 8. Perfectionism. Although perfectionism can come across as ambition and drive, it can also be a maladaptive trait stemming from feelings of inferiority, defined by the APA as the tendency to demand of others or of oneself an extremely high or even flawless level of performance in excess of what is required by the situation. Perfectionism can present in various ways. The link between self-esteem and perfectionism is tricky because to a degree it's beneficial to strive to be better, but a study published in BMC Psychologically in 2022 found that low self-esteem is associated with levels of perfectionism that cause distress and make it difficult to complete tasks or reach goals for fear of failure. If you struggle with perfectionism that's paralyzing, working to improve your self-esteem could help you shift toward behavior that propels you forward. The takeaway: an inferiority complex is a condition in which negative self-image continuously has damaging effect on your life and your mental health in particular. It centers around a deep-seated belief that you are inferior to others. Other signs include feeling insecure, incomplete, or unworthy, as well as feeling loneliness and having a tendency to withdraw from social situations. Difficulty accepting compliments, constantly comparing yourself to others, and perfectionism are some other common signs. Some people also develop a superiority complex as a result of having an inferiority complex as a way to escape the feelings of being inadequate. So I found that interesting because it can affect your moods. It can affect how you, I don't want to say behave, but how you act around other people and whether or not you're secure or insecure. So it can affect your life, completely. So that's why I decided to record that, because I can relate. So have a good one.